Okay, everybody, we'll move next to ranch riding and a little bit of an overview of ranch riding pattern 1. So there are 12 maneuvers in this pattern. It's a little bit of a marathon class to judge, but these maneuvers go by quickly, so keep your head up and ready to see everything. Okay, starting off, we have a simple walk maneuver. You're looking for a horse with a forward pace and a responsive headset. And then we move up into the trot. I'm just looking for an evenly cadenced 2-beat trot while maintaining that positive expression. And then we extend the trot. Rather than really an increase in speed, we're looking for an extension of stride, which will naturally come with an increase of speed. But at its essence, the extended trot should be an extension of that length of stride. And then maneuver 4, we go to a 360-degree turn to the left. We're looking for a turn that's level and quick. Pretty simple. And then we'll pick up the left lead lope. We're just looking for a horse that's willing and cadenced through this. Lead change is maneuver 6. Doesn't dictate whether it needs to be flying or simple. I'd rather have a pretty simple than an ugly flying. But a pretty flying is always nice as well in terms of giving credit as a judge. And then you're in your right lead lope. Again, we're just looking for a horse that's responsive and consistent. And then you should extend the stride of that right lead lope down the rail. And then again, we collect the right lead lope here at maneuver 9. And then we break down to the extended trot. This is one of the harder transitions from the collected lope to the extended trot, so really give credit to those who do it seamlessly and responsively. And then we go to maneuver 11, which we are going to walk over some poles. We're looking for a horse that has authority when approaching and maneuvering over those poles. And then finally stop and back. We want a horse that stops square and backs quick and straight. Okay, let's look first now at horse number 1. Already portraying some of its attention issues. Here at the walk, I didn't think it was violating enough to move from a 0 or correct. However, when we go to maneuver 2 and pick up the trot, we start winning and maybe losing some of that little attention we had to the rider, and I do go a -1/2 on maneuver 2, the trot. And again, here when the rider asks to extend, we see some obvious signs of lack of attention to the rider, lack of responsiveness for a -1/2. Definitely a nice moving horse, though. Probably with some age, that'll get better. The 360 here is definitely disjointed and lacks a nice conclusion, -1/2. We step off into the left lead, but we're pretty obviously requiring a lot of handling by the rider for a -1/2. Lead change I left alone at a 0. This right lead I thought was correct for a 0. And then we start to ask for the extension here, and we really start to vary from that straight line of travel enough to earn a -1/2. We collect back down to the right lead lope. I thought this maneuver was correct for a 0. We break down to the extended trot. Definitely anticipating maybe a change in line of travel or slow down there for -1/2. The walkovers I thought were correct for a 0. And I gave the stop and back some credit with a +1/2 for cadence and quickness. Altogether, the Palomino rider 1 earned a 67.5 in the ranch riding. Okay, this bay horse begins here at a nice pace at the walk. Definitely loses some focus and some cadence throughout this maneuver 1 for a -1/2. We pick up the jog, and maybe he locks in just a little more in terms of his headset frame and really paying attention to the rider for a 0. We break gate here for less than 2 strides, 1 point penalty at the jog for a -1/2 on that maneuver as well. We move to maneuver 4, 360 to the left. I thought he executed that with some speed, agility, quickness for a +1/2. We step off into the left lead, maybe a little resistant through the head, looking at the crowd just a bit. Nevertheless, I called it a 0 for correct. -1/2, a little anticipatory, maybe a little resistant there through the lead change. Right lead now, I called a 0 for correct. Extended lead, I thought the extended right lead, I thought he showed enough extension there while being willing enough to earn a +1/2. The collection here I called a 0 for correct. Extended trot, I really think he showed us a little more extension here for a +1/2. Nice transition down in the walk. Walkovers I called a 0 for correct. Stop is decent, with the back being really what takes away from this final maneuver. Definitely crooked, disjointed, -1/2. Overall, he incurs 1 penalty point and ends up with a score of 68.5. Overall, this sorrel just shows a really correct pattern that doesn't really push the box in terms of degree of difficulty. 0 for correct on the walk. The trot, I think, shows cadence and a decent quality of movement, but can't be more than a 0 for correct. We definitely get some extension of speed here, but for it, we almost sacrificed some attention, especially there in the first part of the extended trot. So I left it a 0. The turnaround's a little labored, a little resistant, but nonetheless, I felt I could leave it at a 0. We pick up the left lead here. Again, a decent mover, but pretty much the epitome of 0. Lead change there is correct for a 0. The right lead here is correct as well. Here I actually got a little bit off high center with a +1/2. You know, we deviated a little bit there in terms of line of travel, but I thought he showed enough extension of stride and increase in speed for a +1/2. He had been accumulating some credit with slightly above 0 maneuvers before that. And we're back to 0 here on the collection. And I thought he showed a little more extension of stride coupled with more responsiveness and attention to his rider there for a +1/2. The walkovers, while being attentive, are relatively slow, so I left them at a 0. And the stop and back is not too quick, but it is the back and it is correct. So I left it a 0, and overall, horse 3 on my card was a 71. Okay, rider and horse number 4. We have this gray horse here. Definitely a 0 at the walk, not forward or authoritative enough for more than that. However, we move up into the jog and we see a nice cadence with an authentic look for a +1/2. We really extend out nicely while being super responsive and consistent for a +1 here in maneuver 3. +1/2 in the turnaround, really level, cadence, smooth, quick. Left lead, we step right off into it while remaining responsive, collected for a +1/2. Lead change is definitely not simultaneous for a -1/2. Here on the right lead, maybe a little too collected, a little bit on the bit there, maybe for a 0. Still going to call that correct. Really get some nice extension down the rail here on the right lead for a +1/2. I think this mare comes back really nicely down in the collected, but maybe gets a little resistant through the bit. So we leave that as 0 for correct. Nice transition down to the trot. It has to be kicked up a little bit back into that full extension, so we call that maneuver a 0 for correct. Again, a 0 here in the walkovers. And we round out here with a quick but crooked back for a -1/2. Overall, rider 4 ends up with a final score of 72.